is starting to get cold outside, which means it's getting to that time of year where it's perfect to just sit inside and get all cozy under some blankets with a mug of tea or coffee or hot chocolate and read a really good cozy book. Yes? And snuggle with your cat. Apparently I forgot that part. Yes, I did. I forgot that part. I thought it would be fun to kind of do a winter reading recommendations slash my sort of small TBR for what I'm hoping to read this winter. It's nothing crazy because I'm kind of hoping to keep my reading kind of open and more, and more mood read this winter, but there are a few books that I definitely want to get to. So to start, I thought I would just give some recommendations. These are not all Christmas or winter themed books. Some of them are, and others are just ones I find give kind of a cozy vibe and would be a really good time to read during the winter. So to start off, you can't really go wrong with a cozy graphic novel, and Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Jomny is exactly that. It is so cozy and heartwarming and just plain adorable, and I love this book so much. I definitely plan on reading it probably in January just because I have already read it once this year, but it's definitely one that I both recommend and I am planning on reading myself this winter just because of how cute it is. It's definitely one that's really good to read when you've kind of got those winter blues where it feels like you see hardly any sunshine because the days are just so short and cold. So a book like this is just so happy and uplifting and gives like you kind of hope for what's to come in the spring. And don't get me wrong, I love the winter, but I definitely still experience the winter blues, so this one is definitely a temporary cure for that. And then if I'm going to recommend any cozy manga or graphic novels, yes, Awen approves of these ones too. I definitely had to mention The Girl from the Other Side. These are just so adorable, and I do not want to drop these on you. Can you come over here? These are just so adorable and cute, and they're such a cozy vibe. I love them. I love them so much, and Awen does too. It is cat approved. I mean, this one is definitely giving cute snowy winter vibes. So each book or each deluxe edition has like a different season for the theme of the cover, and they are as dark and spooky yet adorable and beautiful and cozy as the covers make them out to be. I promise you can judge these books by their covers because they're just such a good time. So if you're looking for any cozy manga, I highly recommend that series. It is so much fun and I cannot wait to reread it sometime in the future. Maybe not this winter, but definitely a winter to come. Then I also think that there is hardly anything better than cozying up with some good poetry, and this is one that I'm actually in the middle of right now. It's Dearly by Margaret Atwood, but I definitely have to recommend it because it is absolutely gorgeous. Margaret Atwood's writing, so beautiful and breathtaking, and I feel like anyone could get good, warm, cozy vibes from this collection of poetry. It is so beautiful. And then also for poetry, I have Bright Poems for Dark Days and Anthology for Hope. So this is a collection of poetry by a bunch of different poets, and it's all poetry about hope about the future and courage and really uplifting kind of happy topics. And once again, I feel like this would be a really good read for like maybe late January, early February, where you kind of have the winter blues and you just cannot wait for spring to finally get here. Then of course I just had to throw some Christmas stories into it. So this one's a classic Christmas treasury, and it is once again just a collection of various authors and classic Christmas stories. So there's A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens in here. There is the original Nutcracker in here. I think there's also some like Christmas poetry and carols and stuff like that. This is definitely a fun one to read aloud, kind of around the Christmas tree or probably like a fire or something like that with your significant other or your friends or your kids or whomever you would want to read aloud with. It's just classic Christmas stories that everyone knows and probably loves. Then we have Hercule Poirot's Christmas by Agatha Christie. I had to throw in a cozy mystery, and this one just happens to take place on Christmas, so it was kind of perfect for this list, and I really did enjoy this whodunit Agatha Christie. You cannot go wrong with a cozy Agatha Christie murder mystery, and this one was a fun time for sure. Then I also highly recommend Letters from Father Christmas by JRR Tolkien. So this one is such a beautiful collection of letters that JRR Tolkien wrote to his kids from Father Christmas, and it is such a bittersweet read because towards the end of the book you can kind of see some of his kids kids had stopped believing, and so he started addressing the letters to just his younger kids, and then eventually just the one younger kid. But it's also full of illustrations and like copies of the actual letters themselves that he wrote and stuff, so definitely a beautiful collection to read. Once again, I feel like this would be a really fun one to read with other people. That's what I did, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. And then I just feel like as an honorable mention, I'm gonna throw The Hobbit into there because this is just the coziest fantasy ever, and it definitely deserves a place in this cozy recommendations list. I definitely think this would be a really, really fun one to read if you're like snowed in or something like that. You could definitely read it in a day, and it's just so calm and cozy and the perfect fantasy. And then speaking of being snowed in, this is Black Ice by Becca Fitzpatrick. It is a YA thriller about a character who has been snowed into like an abandoned cabin and freaky things start happening. It's been a few years since I've read this one for sure, but I've read it like 2 or 3 times and I've really loved it every single time that I read it. So if you're looking for a cozy thriller that's not too scary, this one is definitely a good one for sure. And then if you're looking for a cozy thriller that is on the scarier side, Misery by Stephen King definitely has cozy vibes at times, but is absolutely horrifying at other times, and it definitely gives secluded cabin in the winter vibes, but maybe not exactly in the coziest of ways. But definitely a fun, cozy read, and this one you will not want to put down, so it's perfect for like a snow day or a day where it's just far too cold to go outside. And then obviously I had to include some romance here. So In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren is such a fun time. It's got the plot of like Groundhog Day where the same day kind of keeps happening, and I hate that trope. Personally, I find it gets so boring and repetitive and tedious so fast, but Christina Lauren did such a phenomenal job at writing this book. I actually really loved it, and I was not expecting to once I realized that that is what the premise was, but it took me by surprise. Their writing stayed fresh and new the whole time, and it was so much fun. Such a cute Christmas romance, so if you're looking for that, highly recommend this one. And then obviously if we're talking about super cute cozy romances, I can't make this video without talking about Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is one that I both plan on reading and am recommending, obviously. I read this one every end of January into early February because I just love it so much. This one just gives me the coziest vibes ever. I love it so much. So now we're kind of more into my tiny little TBR, Pride and Prejudice obviously being a part of that. So first off, we have Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. I read this book years ago, like probably a decade ago. I don't even know, maybe over a decade ago. I don't remember at this point, but it has been a while, and I was going through one of my bookshelves and saw this one and completely forgot that I owned it. So I figured this year I will read it again, and if I like it still, I'll keep it, and if I don't, I'll give it to someone who would get more enjoyment out of it than I do. So it's definitely on my TBR for hopefully December, because I think they're short stories that take place around Christmas. And then this one has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, but I've been putting off reading this one for an eternity now. So it's Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. As you can see, I started it and that was like a couple months ago, so I think I'm gonna actually have to restart it, but I am going to try my hardest to actually finish this one this winter, but we'll see. I don't have much faith in myself with that one. Then I definitely want to read Bizarre Romance by Audrey. I do not know how to say that last name, so I'm not going to say it. And Eddie Campbell. This one looks exactly like the title says. Absolutely bizarre, but in a good way, and it looks like it could have like some cozy romance and stuff in it too. It's definitely some interesting artwork, but I feel like it could be a really fun time and it would make like a really cozy read for a winter afternoon, so I'm definitely going to strive to read this one. And then last but hopefully not least, I am finally going to read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I have heard so many positive things about this book that it better be the coziest book I have ever read in my entire life, because that is all anyone ever says about this book, and I have very high expectations going into this. Honestly, it does look like a really fun, cutesy time, and I need all of the cozy coffee shop vibes in my life that I can possibly get, so I'm really hoping that I get all of that from this book. I'm so excited to read this one. Oh my gosh. But anyway, that is my recommendations slash TBR for this winter. Let me know in the comments what you plan on reading this winter, and maybe you can give me some recommendations to add to my TBR for this winter too. That would be absolutely amazing. But I think I'm gonna leave this video here. I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy reading.